Okay. On that note, he's not. I mean, let me go to the next person. That is Mr. Daniel Bwala. Mr. Daniel Bwala, you are now on. I've removed your mute. You're welcome, Mr. Bwala.
It's an honor to be here, and we've been having a very constructive engagement, beginning with the first speaker, and Professor Morris, who also did a very good justice. In fact, I was looking forward to really hearing from him because from the day I read that he has interesting ideas to the solution we're seeking for, I felt very excited about it. It's a shame that we have not heard the government taking a very massive step in supporting that cause. Because the way everything is going, bioterrorism, bio this, bio that, solution to every problem will have to be homegrown. Otherwise, the future will be bleak. Uh, I, well, as a lawyer, I'm honest to look at it from the perspective of law and especially the proposed bill. Let me clear the doubts of people because there are lots of, I wouldn't say conspiracy theory, but narrative that is built in the air that has now led to lots of people taking a firm decision to kill this bill as though the bill is a problem to the country. I remember many times, I think about 3, 4 weeks ago, when we talked about the need for a law to be enacted that will replace the Quarantine Act, because quite frankly, quite a number of provisions in the Quarantine Act are obsolete and outdated. They are not realistic, especially if you look at the enforcement part, the monetary value of punishment. It is not realistic. If you look at the declaration of proclamation by the president, and then how that will be enforced. If you look at it practically, you will see that, I don't know in Lagos and other parts of the country, but in Abuja, we have mobile court moving everywhere and trying people summarily for disobeying orders and sentencing them, some to community punishment and some to fine. And the question has been asked, under what law are you trying them? Under law, what law are you punishing them? Because if you say you're drawing then your authority from the regulation of government and then the Quarantine Act, other questions come as to whether what you're trying there for amounts to a crime, if the punishment is that which might lead to imprisonment. And if it's a crime, then the question further is whether the executive can enact a law that will define a crime and prescribe a punishment, or whether that power solely lies within the powers of the legislature. But for my own part, I'm looking at it from the perspective that the principal aim of every law is to cure a mischief. So, what are the mischiefs that we're all confronted by as a result of this pandemic situation in the country? And lots of people are looking at it from the enforcement perspective. I, for one, hold the belief that our law enforcement agents have not had the challenge of enforcing the law. From when I was born till date, I've always known that our law enforcement will rather be excessive in enforcing laws. And so, if the essence of the infectious disease control bill is to give so much power to the police in carrying out the regulations of government in the meantime, then in my view, the act is defeated. What I look at is, and we can borrow that from jurisdiction. I don't have a problem that a part of, I don't have a problem that we try to borrow from the Singapore law. However, my challenge or concern is that the law which we're seeking or which we copied and we are looking forward to enacting existed or was enacted over 43 years ago. And even if you look at the World Trade Organization policy program for carrying out regulation by member states in dealing with pandemic, you see that most of the provision with regards to enforcement, with regards to the human rights, and balancing that with the need for the government to bring about control to cure the disease or to contain the disease, they are far apart with the Singapore law. So that's why I believe that that law from Singapore is inapplicable and cannot stand the test of time. There is also the human right dimension with the law, which has to do with, for example, some parts of the bill states that the health officer or the law enforcement can, without warrant, if he forms the opinion that a meeting or somebody confined in a place is unauthorized because of infectious disease, they can then take certain measures that are necessary. Human rights advocates have challenged that, and they believe that you can get what they call a warrant from the court or the magistrate. If you have mobile courts moving here and there, then what stops you from getting a warrant from the mobile court, so to speak, if the law is necessarily made? Then what about the socio-economic aspect? Because, for example, the United States, they have the U.S. Public Health Service Act. There are so many other laws in various states. But if you notice, after the advent of this pandemic situation in America, what they quickly did was for the Congress to enact what they call the CARE Act. You see, because the COVID-19 is attacking two-pronged areas. One is the health aspect, which is bringing mortality rate all over the world. Then the other part is the economic. And so what America did in order to cushion the effect was to start the CARE Act, thereby empowering the Congress to then bring in money, stimulus into the economy, and then to see how they can take care of people who are likely to lose their jobs, people who are in businesses that by virtue of this situation, they are going to be down. And so I feel that if we are bringing in infectious disease control bill, should look at that area. Now, I must laud the president for the effort he has taken in ensuring that from the National Reserve, from the food bank, they send money here and there. We have donations from people. Then you have the task force working. But it is not defined. It is not ascertainable. And it has generated a lot of controversy. But these are the areas that I believe in the bill we need to introduce it. So that, for instance, there will be a provision that where the health, in this case, the NCDC, declare a health emergency in the country, it will trigger two things. Number one, the president can then declare national emergency, which will then give the president enormous powers to use the resources of the government to deal with the situation. And in fact, to even go a step further and use the national, what we call the Nigerian army, to come and help the health workers, the frontliners, and people who are in the line of this job. Because you see, without declaration of emergency, human rights issues and questions then arises. But when you declare national emergency, it is understandable and it is globally accepted, even under international law, that certain human rights can be suspended for the purposes of containing that situation. So that is the executive part of what will happen if this law is made. Then the other part is that it will then trigger the National Assembly to then pass a relief act, which can be called the National Emergency Relief or whatever is the nomenclature, but then the Relief Act, so that money will be appropriated from the pot of the country for that purpose. Now, here lies the question. We are all at home. Some of us who are from the private sector find it difficult sustaining staff salary because we do not generate the income. What is the policy of government to cushion the effect so we don't sack people who work for us? Then if you go to public service, there is this report of banks wanting to sack people and reduce the salary. If there is a stimulus package injected by the government within this period, they can keep the employment. Then people who are into manufacturing, because going forward, I see a situation where we will have to have domestic measures of producing our PPE. Imagine we're relying on PPE coming from abroad, and then you have to wait till everybody dies. So we're going to encourage, and how is the government acting in that capacity to encourage local production, and especially in the event of a situation like that? So these are issues that I believe that will trigger the mind of the lawmakers, and then we have to look into it, because if you don't legislate it, it becomes difficult for the government to act. Because another point that I would like to stress is that if you take out the powers of the court, where somebody can challenge an act of government even in the midst of emergency situation, then you are invariably attacking democracy, because anything and everything that is carried out, believed to have been carried out, or is about to be carried out under the guise of law must be tested by the court. The court must be there to settle the issue. So many people have lost their lives. So many people have been maimed on the streets on the account of not obeying a law that is not properly defined and it is not clarified to the people. Then we need sensitization. So, for example, if you look at the NCDC Act, to me, it is like a substantive law. Then what we are about to do, which is the repeal and the replacement of the Quarantine Act, then becomes procedural. I don't think NCDC has a problem understanding the scope of their work, and it is quite elaborate. So people who argue that because there is in existence NCDC Act, therefore there is no need for the repeal and the replacement, are probably misconstruing it, because That act is an establishment act that clearly defines what NCDC will do in the event like that. But then we need procedural law that will then talk about what ought to be done and how we need to do it in a situation like that. These are areas I believe that we should challenge our mind as we look to it, because I'm sure when next the public hearing comes, this is part of what people are going to generate conversation. And some people will want to kill it. So whoever the sponsor, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and thankfully, I've had a couple of interactions with him. He's very open to whatever amendment that is needed necessarily, but never to kill the bill. And I am not in support of the idea of killing the bill, but I am firmly in support of us remodeling. One last thing before I yield to the next speaker is the issue of vaccination. It has generated controversy. In fact, it's the crux of the argument, because in this bill, it is said that vaccination will be mandatory. And then this bill is also, well, people behind it also believe that even in the UK, that's the provision you find, that there is mandatory vaccination. And the other parts of the world are also copying it. And that singular element in the bill has now given birth to what we see and people classify as a conspiracy theory that somebody who is funding the NCDC wants to introduce vaccination and they want to change Africa. You may have been hearing it at your own end. In my view, vaccination should never be mandatory by the act, by the bill when it becomes a law. It should be optional. Just in the same way we had when we had cholera, smallpox, chickenpox, and all of that, it was optional. What we need to take care of it is orientation, and that is where you have the machineries of government that are in charge, tasked with the responsibility of national orientation to give people the proper orientation. Then you have the religious angle. The act says when somebody dies after it is believed he dies probably of COVID-19, then the burial of that person will be carried out by the government and not under any form of religious rite, including wakekeeping. To me, we need to look at it critically and think. We must find a way of ensuring that the law is made in such a way that it does not trample on religious rights, and at the same time, it does not lead to the spread of the virus. These are some of the areas that is agitating people's mind. Let me yield to the next speaker.
Thank you very much. Now we are going to take